Hello, and thank you for joining us for our home buyer workshop. We will be getting started in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to go ahead and send out a message in the chat box. If you do have any questions throughout the workshop, feel free to send them in the chat box or in the question box, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. I do need everyone to complete their intake form. If you have not already done that, I will need that in order to issue your certificate to you. So I've sent the link in the chat box and you can go ahead and complete that. Be sure to complete the budget section because we will be going over it and using it in one of our exercises tonight. So we're going to give folks a few more minutes to start, and we'll start in just a couple minutes here. But go ahead and if you have not already completed the intake form, go ahead and click on that link in the chat box, complete that online form, and have it ready so that we can discuss it during the workshop tonight. Thanks again for joining us. Hello there. Hi, I'm Connie Dertrosian. I'm with Homeownership OC. I'm going to be your host tonight for our home buyer workshop. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I did send a message in the chat box for you to complete our intake form if you haven't done that already. If you have, great job. We will be discussing it tonight. So that's why I'd like you to complete it, and feel free to do that right now if you haven't done so already. All right, so let's jump right in. Tonight, you're going to learn a lot about homeownership. My name's Connie Dertrosian, and I'm the Executive Director of Homeownership OC, which is a HUD-approved housing counseling agency. And I have over 20 years experience in working in the nonprofit housing counseling arena and have, worked with numerous programs. So hopefully I will be able to answer all of your questions tonight. If not, I assure you I will be able to get you an answer. So I'll get back to you with that answer. I am a HUD certified housing counselor as well. And so like I said, I should be able to answer the majority of your questions tonight. This workshop does provide you with a certificate at the end of the workshop, known as a HUD Home Buyer Certificate. That can be only issued through HUD agencies, and it's good throughout the nation. Our specialty, we are located here in California, but pretty much anybody can take our home buyer education class and use that certificate anywhere throughout the country. So a little bit about Homeownership OC. As I said, we are a nonprofit HUD-approved housing counseling agency, and our mission is to promote and preserve the dream of homeownership through outreach, education, counseling, and financing. We were started back in 2007 during the foreclosure crisis, and since then we've done lots of workshops, educated lots of individuals on homeownership, credit, foreclosure, prevention counseling, avoiding real estate scams. And we do partner with several other nonprofits, such as the Fair Housing Foundation. So we have a little bit of fair housing information that we'll be covering. And if you ever have a fair housing issue, you can always outreach to us. and we can provide you with resources to find your local provider who can assist you. All right, so tonight we're going to break our workshop up into two sections. The first part will be covering your readiness to buy, savings and spending, or spending plans. We'll also be talking about credit, and then we'll do a little bit on obtaining a mortgage loan and go do an overview of the mortgage loans and a little bit about down payment assistance programs. We'll take a short break. And then part two, we'll finish it up with shopping for a home, managing our debt, protecting your investments. We'll do a little bit on fair housing, and then what are the next steps. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right into the process here and talk about the first thing we talk about when we meet with our clients is assessing your readiness to buy a home. So there are, of course, advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of homeownership are you have control over your environment, you have stability, tax benefits. It really is the #1 way for you to build equity and build your assets. It's an appreciating investment. The disadvantages are, of course, there's no guarantees. There's decreased mobility. You will be responsible for maintenance and repairs. There are some additional monthly costs like taxes and escrows. And it is a long-term investment. Overall, I'd say homeownership is really the best way for you to increase your assets and build equity for you and your family. If you think about it, where else can you how could you save $100,000? But it's very common for folks, especially now in this market, to have $100,000 in equity in their home. So it really is the #1 way to build wealth for families. So the difference between renting and buying, of course, as a renter, you just pay your rent, your utilities. But as a homeowner, you'll have to pay gas, electric, water, trash, property taxes, homeowner's insurance. You will be responsible for repairs and maintenance, as well as any HOA dues or Mello-Roos that might be included with the property. And Mello-Roos are special taxes for areas that are newer, and you want to know if those are going to be included because that would be included in your monthly payment. And of course, if you're paying HOAs and Mello-Roos, plus your taxes and insurance, that's going to leave less for you to have available for mortgage payment. But we'll get into that a little bit later in the workshop. So let's map out your plan to meet your homeownership goals. First thing we're going to do is figure out how much can you afford to buy. How much can you afford to pay for a home? So affordability really depends on a couple of different factors. #1 being your annual gross income, your credit history and score. It also will be dependent on current mortgage rates, which are still historically low right now. Even though they've gone up a little bit, they're still very low in the 3s and 4s, which is great. Down payment, how much do you have for a down payment? The type of home you're going to buy, your current lifestyle and future plans, and you will need some additional savings for fees and closing costs. So all of that depends on your ability to figure out, am I ready for homeownership? Do I need to save? We're going to cover all of those options throughout the workshop tonight. All right, so what are the steps in buying a home? First, you're doing it tonight. You're preparing yourself for homeownership by getting yourself educated on the process. Then you're going to determine how much you can afford. You'll then apply for a mortgage loan with a lender. You'll get your loan pre-approved. Then you'll go out and decide the type of home that you like to purchase. Next, you'll go shopping for a home with a realtor. Then you'll make an offer or a counter offer, get a home inspection. Then you'll complete all those tasks that are required during escrow. When escrow closes and the loan closes, then you move into your new home. You get the keys and you move into your home. So those are the 10 steps to homeownership. And we'll be breaking them down tonight and going through each particular one of them. So as I mentioned, we're here as a HUD housing counseling agency here to support you, providing you counseling and coaching. You will get your HUD Homebuyer certificate at the end of the class, provided you stick it out through the whole class. And you provide me a copy of that intake form, which includes your budget. I do need that in order to issue your certificate and keep our records together so that we know if you come back to me in 6 months and say, I lost my certificate, I'll have you in my database and say, oh, they took it on this date and I have a copy of their intake, so I'll be able to reissue a certificate. After you purchase your home, if you do have questions or you need assistance, you can always contact us for post-purchase counseling or foreclosure prevention counseling. We also do that. And we do provide one-on-one counseling as well if you need that in addition to the workshop. Some people just attend the workshop, get their certificate, they're ready to go. Other people may need to work on their credit or have specific issues or questions, and we can provide one-on-one counseling for them at that time, at a later time. Let's see, somebody have an issue with hearing me? I'm going to put this a little bit closer. So I am on my telephone, so hopefully that connection is going to be a little bit better. All right, let me know if you have any other technical issues, and I'll see what I can do to try to fix it. All right, so next we're going to talk about savings and spending. So first place we start is, like I said, with your budget, or your spending plan is what I like to call it. Your spending plan is where you track your income and expenses. You'll review it every month or week, make adjustments, decide what's necessary, maybe places where you can trim. If there's some funds left over at the end of the month, we can boost your savings. We can start putting some money aside for savings, set a pattern to boost our savings, put some aside for homeownership, and also review it for triggers for overspending and address any underlying causes. If we know, oh, on payday, I always go out to lunch and then I spend, you know, $50 or so buying lunch for other people, maybe that's something that's triggering you. Maybe you can figure out how to bring your lunch on those days so that you don't go out to lunch on those days. But tracking your spending every month really helps you to see where your money's going. A lot of clients, when we meet with them, they don't even know, you know, if I have $3,000 coming in and $3,500 going out, that's not a balanced budget, right? There's going to be a deficit every month. So what we want you to do is have a balanced budget. Better yet, you have more income coming in than you're spending, so that we can put some aside for an emergency savings in case something goes wrong and you need to have some funds available, as well as put some aside for homeownership, because you will need to have a savings. Even if we were able to get you down payment assistance, you'd still need to have some money available for closing costs, appraisals, your home inspection, things like that. So you will have to put some skin into the game. All right, so a lot of people think a budget is negative. I like to think of it as a very positive thing, and there's lots of benefits to tracking your spending. So when it comes to buying a home, of course, you're going to need savings, and you're going to need to know where your money's going, like a really accurate spending plan, because it can help you with estimating how much you can afford to pay in a mortgage, identify where you may be able to cut some expenses. Perhaps it can help you develop a stronger loan application. I'll tell you, the best people who are successful at homeownership have very little debt or no debt whatsoever, and they have some savings in the bank. So we meet with a client, the first thing we do is say, do you have regular income coming in? Yes, great. What's your credit score? Good, great. Next, you have some savings. You're going to need some savings because, like I said, you're going to need some for down payment and those closing costs. So, really those are the key items that we're looking at. And then, of course, where do you want to buy, and affordability is going to be the last factor there. So there's a couple ways for you to track your spending. Some people like the old-fashioned way. They like to write it down in a book, in a notebook, or maybe on the calendar as it correlates to payday. There's some online tools that I really like. Mint.com is a really great tool. I'm going to put that in the chat box for you all. And it's really a great online tool that you can hook up with if you do online banking, you can connect it to your bank account and it will track your spending. So if you're, like right now, spending a lot of money on gasoline, it'll help you to create a budget, and you'll say, okay, I want to spend $200 a month on gasoline. We'll track all of your gas spending and put it into the gas category and say, okay, Connie, you are at $150, you're $50 under. Of course, right now it's probably over, right? Because gas prices keep going up. But I really like it because it's a simple tool that really helps you track your expenses and keep you on track. So it helps you create a budget, and you can check it on a monthly basis because it's tracking your spending as well. So that's through mint.com. Those are it was created by Intuit, which is the company that does the tax returns, and they connected it with the bank account. There's lots of other ones too. So what if some banks also have budget tools through your bank account? Some people can keep their receipts, track it with your receipts. And of course, like I said, the online banking, a lot of them also have tools. So whatever works best for you, if you like to write it down, you like to use an Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is. We're going to start tonight, which is why I had you all complete the intake form. If you haven't done that, check out the chat box, and there's a link in there where you can complete it. And once you've completed it, it will send you a copy. We're going to be going over the budget section tonight. All right, so you'll have your first stab at a budget if you don't currently have one. So do most of you all ask a question? You can send it in the chat box. Do most of you have a monthly budget? Do you check your budget? Or is that something that you do on a monthly basis? Or are you going to start tonight? Send me a message in the chat box. It's a really good idea to establish a savings and a spending plan to help to determine your monthly gross income, calculate your monthly expenses, see if you have any extra money at the end of the month, and then review it periodically so that you can make adjustments to your monthly income and expenses. And if you have any tools that you'd like to share, great. So we got some people who are going to start tonight. Or if you have any great tools, like I said, I like mint.com, but maybe you found a better one. Feel free to share it with us, and I'll share it with the group, because I like, use whatever's going to work best for you. If you like writing it down, write it down. If you like the online, use the online. Whatever is going to make it work for you. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is determine our net monthly income. Net income is the money you'll earn after taxes or payroll deductions have been taken out. You're going to include any other additional income if you drive for Uber or Postmates, or you do babysitting, or any kind of extra, maybe you fix cars on the side and you get a little bit of extra income. We'll take that into account too. So at this point, we're going to review our budget sections that you've already completed, hopefully. So on that intake form that you completed, you had listed your income and everyone else who contributes in your household, a spouse or whoever that may be. And then we're completing the budget section. And it doesn't have to be exact, but most of us know about how much we're paying for electricity, water, trash, food, etc., cell phone bills. So do it to the best of your ability on a monthly basis. And then we're going to calculate that amount up and get our total monthly expenses. So we have our total monthly income that we're going to calculate and get a total for. And then we have our total household expenses, which of course includes rent, which is not on this form, but go ahead and write it in. I believe it is on the intake form, rent or current mortgage payment, and whatever you're paying for living expenses. All right, so as you're doing that, we're going to calculate our monthly expenses. Expenses can be fixed. For instance, our rent's due on the 1st of every month, and it's probably a fixed amount of money. They can also be flexible, which could be your groceries or your gas, gas bill at the moment, or they can be periodic. So meaning like on a quarterly basis, if you're paying your auto insurance on a quarterly basis, you would just divide that number by 4 and get the monthly amount. All right. So we're going to calculate our monthly income. So we're going to look at what is our total monthly income. We're going to take that and subtract our total monthly expenses. And hopefully, as we do that calculation, we'll have extra income at the end of the month. We would, at least make it balanced. We definitely don't want it in the negatives. If it is in the negatives, then we need to look at places where we can cut and make sure that we at least have a balanced budget. And then we have to either increase our income or decrease our expenses so that hopefully we can get to a place where we can have some money left over at the end of the month so that we can put it aside for a savings. All right, so I'll give you a few minutes. Or a few seconds here for you to make those calculations if you have not done that already. Let's do our own calculations as we've completed our budget. We're going to look at our total monthly income, our total expenses, subtract it from our total expenses. And as I said, hopefully we have some extra money at the end of the month. So as I said, there's lots of great tools online where you can track your spending. We suggest you track it for 3 months for the most accurate data. Even 30 days is good enough. 30 or 60 days, 90 days is better. As you're reviewing it, look to see what costs seem to always be over the planned amount. How important is our homeownership goal? Are you ready to consider trimming those flexible expenses? Maybe we're going out to eat twice a week. Maybe we could cut that down to once a week so that we can make sure we have a balanced budget and maybe have some extra money at the end of the month. Also, are all household members willing to follow the plan and stick with the plan? Because if you're like me and you have kids, they always come up with those extra expenses, right? They need soccer shoes or football cleats or something, that you weren't planning to purchase. So it's always a good idea to have some savings readily available for those extra expenses, as well as an emergency savings plan. So emergency savings would be 3 months of your monthly expenses. That would be great to have. 6 months is even better, but if you can have at least a minimum of 3 months of your expenses saved in a bank account, that would be a good start for an emergency savings. In case something happens, let's say COVID hits and you lose your job, it takes a while for you to get back, get on unemployment and get back to work and get money coming in. Those who have an emergency savings are going to be in a much better situation. All right, so as we're saving for homeownership, we need to set our goals. What is our goal? Pay yourself first is what I always say. So when you get some extra money through a bonus, a promotion, maybe you're doing some extra side work, or perhaps, you know, April's coming up, maybe you get a tax return, you use those dollars to boost your savings. Try not to spend all of that extra money, but put some aside for a savings plan. Because you will need, as I said, you will need some funds going into it. Usually between, you know, say 10, depending on where you're going to buy and the price of the homes, and if you're able to access down payment assistance, you're probably looking at between $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, to be quite honest. So, you know, definitely, and the less debt we have, the better off it is. And we're going to show you some examples of that as well. So, some money management tips, of course, pay your bills on time, keep your credit score high. If it needs improving, go ahead and work on improving it. You can work with our housing counselor. They can help you with giving you tips to improve your credit. Control your day-to-day spending, create the spending plan, and then stick to it. These are the best ways to manage your money. All right, so we're going to talk about credit next. Credit is really important in homeownership. It really is one of the first places we start. So credit is really an x-ray of our financial health. And good credit is really important when buying a home, because lenders are more likely to give you a loan if you've handled past borrowing responsibly. A higher risk loan from a lender's perspective will mean higher interest rate percentage on the loan. So you'll be paying more money for that loan. So I'm going to show you a chart a little bit later that shows you how much money you'll be saving depending on your FICO score. The higher your FICO score, the lower the interest rate, the lower the amount of your monthly payment, the lower interest you'll be paying on that loan. So we want your credit score to be the best possible credit score, high as you possibly can get it, so you can get the best rates. So good credit really does pay off. This example shows what it would cost for a 30-year mortgage if we bought a property for $250,000 and FICO score, let's say our FICO score is very high. It's between 760 and 850. As you can see from this chart, my annual percentage rate is 4.096. My monthly payment would be $1,207. Total interest paid after 30 years would be $184,670. Versus, let's say I have a 640 FICO score, I'm going to pay almost 1.1 more in my annual percentage rate, so about 5.1. My monthly payment is going to go up by about $160 or so to $1,363, and I'll be paying about $240,000 in interest paid, which is about what, $60,000 more in interest. So it really does pay off to get the higher FICO score. Right now, minimum FICO score you would need is 620. But if you had a 620, we would want to get you up to the high 600s, low 700s before you actually go and try to get a loan, because we'd want you to get the best interest rate and pay the least amount for that loan. So first place we're going to look is the credit reporting agencies. We're going to look at your credit report. Credit report is a detailed summary of your credit, and it's put together by the three national companies, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And hopefully you all know that consumers have the right to a free credit report from each of those 3 bureaus every year, and you can access that through annualcreditreport.com. So it doesn't provide a copy of the your FICO score, but some of the other tools like Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, Bankrate, etc., will provide you an idea of where you are. It will give you an idea of a FICO score. Usually, like Credit Karma pulls, I think, just TransUnion. Some people sign up for Experian. They'll provide you with your copy of your report as well as your FICO score. So when lenders run your credit, they're looking at all 3 bureaus and what is your credit score, and then they take a tri-merged from all 3 merged together and come up with a median FICO score. So very important for you to review your credit. If you have not done it, I encourage you to do it tonight or first thing tomorrow. Take a look at your credit, make sure that everything is on there. The website again, annualcreditreport.com. You can get a free credit report. Throughout COVID, they were letting people, it wasn't limited to just once a year. They were letting them do it weekly. I don't know if that has changed yet, but you can just take Equifax, look at it, you know, tomorrow. Then in 3 months, look at Experian. Then in 3 months, look at your TransUnion. Take a look at it. If you do see things on there that need to be corrected, you can easily do that through annualcreditreport.com. They have an online tool to dispute things and even upload documents. So annualcreditreport.com, mark that down. Make sure you're looking at your credit report. You should have an idea of where your FICO score is and if it needs to be improved in order for homeownership. So there are 2 types of credit pools. We have a soft pool, which does not affect your score and is a consumer credit report. So if you're looking at your credit report, it's not going to affect it. If I'm looking at your credit report because I'm a housing counselor, won't affect it. Hard pool is where you go to a lender, you give them access to your credit report, let them run your credit report. They run your credit. It will affect your score, and it is an in-file credit report. So you want to know what type of report they're running. So if you're going to buy a car, if you're renting an apartment, or you're applying for a loan, it will most likely be a hard pull. So you definitely want to know if somebody's looking at your credit, and if you're just trying to see what you can qualify for, ask them for a copy of that credit report, because usually it's good for 30 days or so. So if you do go to another lender, you can give them a copy of the credit report. All right, so how do we come up with those mysterious FICO scores? It's based on 5 categories. Of course, the higher scores is the better score. Most consumers are between 300 and 850, and a higher FICO score means you'll likely pay lower interest rate on your loan. So the 5 categories are: payment history is 35% of your score, amounts owed are 30%, length of credit history is 15%, and then new credit and types of credit are 10%. So as you can see from the pie chart here, 35% is your payment history. So what does that mean? Pay your bills on time. If you're not current, get current. Work on getting current on your monthly bills. Okay. Very important for you to pay your bills on time. And if you've had problems in the past, to work that out so that you can get back on track. Tips for increasing your score. So 35% is your payment history. So avoid closing accounts that have positive payment history. Keep those accounts open. Sometimes you have to use those credit cards once every couple of months. Just use it, pay it off. Use it, pay it off. I do that for getting points, with my Marriott card or Amazon card, and just use it every month. Pay your bills, pay it off. keep making your payments on time, even if it is the minimum payment, because payment history is 35% of your score. Amounts owed are 30%, so use 30% or less of your available credit limit on credit cards and other revolving loans. Best practice is to really pay off your debt, right? Rather than keeping that running amount, that running balance on there. So let's say we have a credit card with $1,000. You're going to want to keep it to $300 maximum. That's 30%. Better yet, use it, pay it down, and pay it off over a period of time, and have that credit card open but with zero balance on it, because you're paying it off every month. New credit, 10%. So if you're doing shopping for something specific, do it within a 14 to 30-day window, so it has less impact of your credit score. Just know that new lines of credit, purchasing furniture, co-signing for a loan can negatively affect your credit score. Your credit report should reflect current and accurate information, and don't go out and purchase things when you're in the process of purchasing a home, because it can affect your debt to income ratio, and it could disqualify you for that loan if you do happen to go out and purchase furniture and you're financing it. It could end up affecting your lending approval. So don't make any changes when you're in the home buying process. Best way to boost your credit and increase your score is pay your bills on time. If you miss payments, get current, stay current. Be aware that paying off a collection account will not remove it from your credit report. You can negotiate with your own creditors, and those collection accounts will usually settle for less than the original amount. You can negotiate with them. Call them up, say, I got $500. If the amount was, $800, say, I'm willing to give you $500, pay this off. Ask them to remove it from your credit report if they can. Sometimes they give you trouble doing that. But the good thing is, once it's paid off, then the farther you get away from that, the more your credit score will increase. If you are having trouble making ends meet, contact your creditors, try to work out a payment plan, pay at least the minimum amount. If you have a late fee on there, try to negotiate with them to take it off. Know that you can always get credit counseling from a HUD approved agency like us. Amount owed tips: keep your balances low on credit cards and other revolving debt. As I said, best to pay it off at the end of the month if you can. Pay off debt rather than moving it around. Don't close your unused credit cards as a short-term strategy to raise your score. And don't open new credit cards that you don't need to increase your available credit limit. And for new credit, do your rate shopping within a focused period of time. 14 to 30 days is really recommended. And know that you can reestablish your credit history if you had problems in the past. Note that it's okay to request and check your own credit, and that you guys are going to go to annualcreditreport.com to check your credit and see what's your score, and also see that everything that's on there is accurate. All right, so we do have some scenarios here, and I'm going to ask you to be a participant. We have Susan, Jonathan, and Maria, and I want you to review their scenarios and tell me, who do you think has the higher credit score and why? All right, so first we have Susan. She has an annual income of $31,750. She has a car loan for $12,760. She has one credit card that's paid off. Her second credit card has a limit of $7,500, and she has a $4,000 balance on it. She has never missed a payment on her credit cards. Right, so that's Susan. Then we have Jonathan. He has an annual income of $52,000. He has no car loan, no credit cards, pays everything with a debit card or cash. And then we have Maria. She has an annual income of $40,000. She paid cash for her car. She has one credit card with a balance of $12,000, and the limit is $12,500. And she has missed 2 payments in the last year because she was traveling. She should have set up automatic payments, but I guess she forgot about that. All right, so out of these 3 scenarios, Susan, Jonathan, Maria, who do you think has the higher credit rating and why? So you got to send me a message in the chat box and let me know what you think. Is it Maria, Jonathan, Susan? All right, let's see. Some say Susan, some say Jonathan. Nobody's saying Maria at this point, which is very good. Yes. So you'd be absolutely right if you're saying Susan. So she's got her stuff together here. She's never missed a payment. She's a little bit above the, more than 50%, but on the balance of her credit card, but that's all right. She's making her car payments on time. So all of that is very good. Now, some folks thought perhaps Jonathan, because he's got a good income, he has no car loan, no credit cards. Well, having no credit history is actually like having a bad credit history. It's like they have nothing to score. So what we would tell Jonathan is he should go out, get some credit cards, use them, pay them off, use them, pay them off at the end of the month to start establishing some credit. Okay, and then Susan needs to work on setting up automatic payments so that she makes sure that she gets her payments on time, even if she's traveling. So very good, very good answers. So there was a question about how long the certificate lasts. It does last 1 year, but I won't make you retake the class again. If you need it revised, you can just go ahead and contact me, and I'll update it for the following year if you need it for another year. All right, so bankruptcy, how does it affect credit? It will factor into your score as long as it remains on your credit report. Chapter 11 and 7 is 10 years. Chapter 13 up to 7 years, and it does affect your ability to qualify for a mortgage. FHA has a minimum waiting period, I believe, of 2 years, and other qualifications based on the chapter filed. So before you're going to file bankruptcy, you do have to go to a counselor, talk to a counselor, make sure that bankruptcy is the right option for you, because sometimes it's just a matter of managing your debts and paying them down, rather than claiming bankruptcy, because it will impact you for quite a long time. All right, tips to improve your credit. Take your credit scores based on information in your credit, and it takes into consideration all the positive and negative information in each category. It has no memory of your last score. So even if you've had a long and ugly credit history, your score will be weighted in favor of your last performance, which means you need to turn over a new leaf, rebuild your credit. It takes time. It can't be happening overnight. Just like you didn't get into bad credit overnight, it's going to take some time. So you're given points for positive, points are taken away for negatives. It's really important to reestablish the positive to offset the negatives. So if you had a missed payment in the past, start making your payments regularly on time. That's going to give you positive. The farther you get away from that late payment or the negative thing, the less impact it is on your score. It does season out, and as you begin to utilize credit responsibly, you can improve a negative score. As I said, it does take time. Now, don't believe those organizations that say, I can fix your credit overnight. Nobody can do that. No one can guarantee to remove accurate information on your credit report. You can't remove a bankruptcy. You can't remove a foreclosure. They can't create a new identity for you. They may dispute things, which you can do on your own. You don't need to pay them to do that. You can do that on your own if it is legitimate. But if they're disputing something that's accurate, It may go off your credit for 30 days and your credit score will go up, but then in the next 30 days, they're going to put it right back on and then your score is going to drop down again. So it's really important for you to do this work yourself, work with a reputable credit agency or HUD agency. They do this work for free. Legitimate companies will provide a service before requesting payment. I really personally don't like those debt management plans. I think you could do that all on your own. And I said take the money you would have used for the credit repair to use it to pay down your debts, or get a secured credit card from a local bank and start rebuilding your credit history yourself. As I said, you can get your own credit report, you review it, dispute things on there very easily yourself, annualcreditreport.com. You can send your own dispute letters, and there's lots of information and publications if you check out credit.org. They have lots of resources. You can, like as I said, send your own dispute letters and things. They make it really super easy for you to do that. You are protected as a consumer. You have the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, and the Fair Housing Act says you have a right to a mortgage application being reviewed without consideration of race, religion, age, national origin, sex, marital status. Fair Credit Reporting Act gives you the right to a free credit report once a year. You also can dispute settlements for errors. And the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act guarantees users' rights in dealing with debt collectors. They can't harass you. They can't tell you that, call you at all hours of the night. They can't tell you they're going to take you to jail or go to your work or, all those crazy things that they do. And you can tell them, I only want to be contacted via mail. I don't want you to call me anymore. You don't have to take their calls. Okay. So, and you can negotiate if you do have collections. Know that you can do that yourself. All right, any questions that we have on credit, on savings, spending plans? Before we jump into financing of a home. All right, so we're going to jump into mortgage loans, and then we'll cover a little bit about down payment, and then we will be taking a break. Probably in about a half an hour or so. So hang in there with me. You do need to hang in for the whole workshop in order to get your certificate. And as I said, if you have not completed the intake form, please do that during the break. Send it over to me because I do need that in order to issue your certificate. All right, so what is a mortgage loan? Here in California, we call it a deed of trust. And it's essentially a secured loan agreement between the lender and buyer in which the property is used as collateral for the loan. They'll usually work with either a mortgage broker or loan officer to apply for the loan. Mortgage broker is the person who usually works with different loan products and different financial institutions. Loan officer would be somebody who represents a lender or financial institution, may work for a specific bank such as Chase, Wells Fargo, US Bank. So loan officer usually works for a bank, will offer you their products, whereas a mortgage broker has a variety of loan products and financial institutions too. So you can work with either one, and one's not necessarily better than the other. So who originates loans? We have traditional banks. We also have mortgage companies. Mortgage companies or mortgage bankers only make loans that are secured by mortgages on homes. One advantage of working with a mortgage company is that they specialize in mortgage loans, so they often have loan programs, a variety of loan programs at good interest rates. I usually tell clients, check with wherever you bank, go to talk to a loan officer there and see what kind of programs they have. Majority of all the lending institutions and traditional banks have down payment assistance programs and first-time buyer programs, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Perhaps you bank with a credit union. You can go to a credit union as well. That's a private bank run by and for its members. one advantage of using a credit union is that they offer their members good mortgage loan terms, fees, and interest rates. There are also nonprofits that provide that receive money from the government or grants, and they provide lending. Usually it's geared for first-time buyers and may have some guidelines that we'll talk about. And then we have government agencies like state or local housing finance agencies that provide financing for special uses and especially for first-time buyers. Here in California, we have Cal HFA, but most all states have their housing finance agencies that have down payment assistance program and first-time buyer grants. So always good to check with them to see what kind of programs they may have. We'll be talking about a few of them a little later in the workshop. All right, so what makes up a mortgage payment? You may have heard of PITI, that's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So principal would be the part of the mortgage payment that is applied to the original amount borrowed. Interest is the amount that the lender charges for lending money. Taxes are the part of the mortgage payment used to pay your property taxes. And insurance is the part of the payment that's used to pay homeowners and sometimes mortgage insurance as well. All right, so what are the factors affecting mortgage payments? Down payment, so the more money you put down, the less you'll have to finance, right? The repayment terms of the loan interest rate, and are we including HOA fees and Mello-Roos? Remember, Mello-Roos are those special taxes for newer areas, and they will be paid on a monthly basis as well. And HOA dues are usually for condos, and it's for upkeep of the area, the common areas, and all of that. Okay, so we're going to talk about qualifying for a loan and affordability. When looking at affordability, you will often be pre-approved for a loan when your housing payment and debt payments are equal to or less than 43% of your gross income. So your housing payment, remember how we just talked about that? It's going to include your mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and any HOAs or Mello-Roos. That's going to be your total housing payment. They're going to look at your debt payments, which are loans, car loans, credit cards, child support, revolving debt. They're also going to look at your savings. You have, let's say you have $20,000 saved, so you can use that for down payment. That will help reduce the amount that you're going to borrow. They'll also be looking at your living expenses and how much you pay for all of those things. So when we look at it, your housing payments and your debt payments need to be equal to or less than 43% of your gross income. So we're going to do a little bit of math here, but I'll be doing it for you, so don't worry, you don't have to get your calculator out. All right, so remember earlier I had mentioned to you that the less debt you have, the more purchasing power you have. So the clients who have paid off all of their debts, they use their credit card and they pay it off at the end of the month. They don't carry any balances on their credit cards. Those are the ones that are most successful, easy to work with, because they have more money available for their housing payment. So in the example on the left, with 5% of our income used for paying off debt and 38% available for housing payments, this individual is able to qualify for a higher mortgage loan. Now, in the example on the right side, with 15% of the income allocated towards debt and 28% towards housing, this individual does not have as much income available for a home and has a lower purchasing power. So, as I said, the less debt you carry, the more savings that you have, the better off you are in regards to homeownership. We're having to pay monthly car payments, credit card bills. That's going to reduce the amount we have available for our housing payment. Because lenders, when they work with you, they're going to be looking at your housing ratio and then your debt to income ratios. So don't get too let's not make this too complicated. But when they're talking about housing ratios or your front-end ratio, that's the maximum percentage of a borrower's income that can be used to make a monthly mortgage payment. So in this scenario, let's say we were bringing home $6,000 a month. A monthly housing cost is $2,000 a month. That would be our 30% housing or front-end ratio, right? So we take 2,000 divided by 6,000. That's how we get that 30%. Now, when we're calculating the debt-to-income ratio or the back-end ratio, that's the maximum monthly amount the borrower can spend on a house payment plus all their debts owed to creditors. So let's use that same scenario. I'm paying $2,000 for my housing payment. I have a $300 car payment. I have a $200 credit card payment. That's going to be a total of $2,500. So we're going to take $2,500 divided by 6,000, and we come up with 41% DTI, or back-end ratio. So that's well below the 43%. So each person's situation may vary. A front-end ratio higher than 38% or a back-end ratio higher than 43% signals a need to lower your debt and control your use of spending or your use of credit before attempting to purchase a home. So that's why I said don't go out purchasing any new furniture or a new car or changing things up when you're in the middle of getting a loan, or you're already qualified for the loan, you're in the purchasing process. All right, so at least you understand what the ratios are, the front-end ratio, back-end ratio. When we talk about DTI, that's what we're talking about. But you don't have to worry too much about it because the lender's going to do all of these calculations for you. Now, when we're calculating affordable monthly payments, we multiply a monthly gross income by 0.43, which is a standard back-end ratio, then subtract the monthly debt payments from the total. And this is the amount that you could afford to pay each month on a mortgage. So using that same calculation, we're going to say monthly income, $6,000, multiply it by 0.43. That's our back-end ratio. We had debts of $580, so we're going to subtract that, and we come up with $2,000 is our affordable monthly payment. All right, so again, like I said, you don't have to worry too much about this, but the lender will be doing calculations, and when they tell you, oh, you got to pay down that credit card, you'll know why. There's also what's called loan-to-value ratio. That's the ratio of the loan balance you owe to the appraised value of the property. It's used during the loan approval period to gauge risk. Higher LTV, the higher LTV percentage, the lower the risk. Lower the interest rate, the lower the LTV, the higher the risk, and typically the higher interest rate. An LTV of less than 80% is ideal. So how do they calculate LTV? They divide the appraised value of the property by the mortgage amount. So for example, appraised value is $400,000, the mortgage is $260,000. We would divide $260,000 by $400,000, and we get a 65% LTV. They use this a lot in refinancing, not so much in the purchasing part. But when they're talking LTV, that's what they're talking about. All right, comparing mortgage loans. We're going to do a little bit more of this, maybe about 15 more minutes or so, and then we'll take a break. So there are several different types of loan categories. We have government insured or guaranteed loans, conventional and non-conventional. So government insured loans include those from private lenders that the government insures or guarantees, such as FHA, VA, USDA, etc. Conventional is any loan that's not insured by a government-sponsored entity. Then we have conforming and non-conforming. And then we have non-conventional, which carry more risk to the lender and investor, and usually offered when a conventional loan is not available or attainable. That would be like a hard money loan and things that hopefully you won't ever be dealing with. So we also have fixed rate and adjustable rates. Also, adjustable rate mortgage is ARM. Fixed rate is fixed for the life of the loan. Typically, it's a 15, 20, 30-year mortgage, and at the end of the mortgage, the loan is paid off. The pros to this is that the payment does not change over time. The cons are that the payment remains the same, which could be higher than it would be with a different type of loan. Right now, because interest rates are in the 3s and 4s, nobody's getting an adjustable rate mortgage. Everyone's getting a fixed rate mortgage. Adjustable rate is where the initial fixed rate has an initial fixed rate period and then adjusts upward or downward depending on mortgage terms. Usually it's a fixed rate period of 2, 3, 5, 7, or 10 years. The pros are the initial payments may be more affordable, lower, but the cons are the payment may increase after the fixed rate period. So as I said, nobody's really getting ARMs at this point because fixed rates are so low. So you're as a first-time buyer going to get a fixed rate loan. Trust me on this. So there are special homeownership programs available through the federal, state, local governments, as well as private and public nonprofits. Most of them are targeted to low and moderate income families and first-time buyers. Eligibility and requirements vary across various programs, and most have income and or geographic requirements. So one thing I was going to mention is that a first-time buyer is someone who has not been on title to a property for 3 years. So if you had a house 5 years ago and then sold it, and then you've been renting for the past 5 years, you would be considered a first-time buyer, as long as for the past 3 years you haven't been on title to a home. Now, if let's say your parents put you on title, then you're not going to be a first-time buyer. Okay, so all right, question for you all. If I make $100,000 and I have no debt, how much can I afford to buy? Well, I'm not going to make you answer this question. I'm going to answer it for you. So I do have a nice little chart here, and it shows you what you can afford if you have no debt versus $500 in debt or $1,000 in debt. All right, so from this chart, if you look down and we look at yearly income, no monthly debt, we see $99,599. Okay, so that means if you look across to the left, we could afford a house, $550,000 for a house if I'm putting down $19,250. So that would mean my loan amount would be $530,750. My monthly payment would be $3,735. That's if I make $100,000. Now let's say, for instance, I have $500 worth of debt. What happens? Well, in that case, if we look at the chart, let's just go to $99,350. That brings my sales price down to $475. Okay, so that means I can only afford a house of $475,000 versus $550. Now, if I have $1,000 in debt, it's going to go down to $400,000. So as you can see, the less monthly debt you have, the more you have available for your mortgage payment, the more purchasing power you have. So that's why I say it's best to pay down your debts as low as possible, and get some savings together before you jump into home ownership. All right, so we had a question. What if you have a timeshare? Is that considered a homeowner? Now, on that, I do not believe you are considered a homeowner because you're only a partial homeowner. But what they will be factoring into is that monthly payment. If you have a monthly payment on that, that will be included in your debt to income ratio. But I don't believe the timeshare would count you as a first time. You'd still be counted as a first time buyer. All right. So I'm happy to send a copy of this PowerPoint as well. If you'd like that or just a copy of that chart, I'm happy to do that as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about down payment assistance programs. They are designed for first-time buyers, borrowers who need a little bit lower down payment options, and borrowers with less than perfect credit. And here's some examples of some conventional community lending programs. There are first-time buyer programs that have as low as 3% down. So 3% of the purchase price is what you have to put down. Wells Fargo provides $750 credit in closing costs for just attending this workshop tonight. So if you get your loan with Wells Fargo, they'll give you $750. And I believe they also have a grant of $5,000 for purchasing in some specific geographic regions. Bank of America provides $7,500 in closing costs and $10,000 in down payment assistance for a total of $17,500 for purchasing in certain zip codes. And pretty much all of the banks, Chase, US Bank, Citibank, all of them have first-time buyer programs as well as down payment assistance programs. So go there, talk to them, try to find a lender who works with these first-time buyer programs so that they can help lead you in the direction. Majority of them are going to ask you to complete the class that you're doing tonight so that you're educated on the process. A lot of them have alternative credit evaluations for those with limited or no credit history, and they are more flexible on those ratios, which can help you get into homeownership. There's also FHA and VA mortgages, which have minimal down payment requirements. FHA is 3.5%, VA is no down payment, and they are more flexible guidelines than other conventional loans and no income limits. There's lots of different loan options available for you. Closing cost assistance. Lenders can provide closing cost assistance to help first-time buyers buy a home. It can be used towards closing costs, may eliminate the upfront closing costs. Usually no repayment is required and can be combined with other community programs. So there's a difference between closing costs and down payment. Closing costs are the cost to get the loan. That's that money that I was talking about, $10,000, $20,000 or so, versus down payment. So there's two types of assistance that may be available, and some can be combined together. All right, so I'm going to talk about a couple of them. There's the WISH program that's available for first-time buyers. It's forgiven after 5 years, can be used for down payment and closing costs. However, the first mortgage does have to be approved with an approved lender only, so someone who works with that WISH program. And it provides up to $15,000 for each household and it matches up to $3 for each dollar contributed by the home buyer. So say you have $5,000 saved, they'll match it 3-to-1, up to $15,000. So you have $20,000 available that can be used for down payment and or closing costs. The application process allocates the funds for homeownership based on the program eligibility, and it can be layered with other programs. All right, there's also community assistance programs that help with down payment and or closing costs provided by nonprofits, federal, state, local agencies. Now, some are grants and forgiven over a period of time, so you have to stay in the house for a certain period of time. Others may be required once you sell the property, you have to pay that money back. So you want to know, is it a grant or is it a silent second loan that's going to stay on the property and I have to pay it back? As I said, repayment may be required or forgiven over a period of time. Now here in Orange County, where I'm located, we have the city of Santa Ana has up to $120,000 in down payment assistance. Used to be $80,000, but now it's $120,000. Check out the city's webpage for more information on that. The County of Orange has the Mortgage Assistance Program that offers up to $80,000. We're going to talk about the Mortgage Credit MCC program, which is a 20% tax credit. And the California Association of Realtors just announced a $10,000 down payment assistance grant from participating nonprofits. You do have to use a California Association of Realtors, member of the California Association of Realtors. All right, so this is just a variety of programs that are available. And, you know, what I suggest is look in the cities and counties where you're considering to buy and check out their city webpage, county webpage, check out local banks and see what kind of programs may be available for you in your specific area. All right, question for y'all. Do you have to attend homebuyer education class and get a certificate in order to qualify for down payment assistance? Hopefully y'all are going to answer this one correct, because I think I've been talking about it all night long here. Yes, very good. Yes, you do have to finish the class, get the certificate in order to qualify for majority of it. Some maybe, but majority of them, yes. Yes, you're all right. Very good. Y'all get A's. All right, couple more mortgage programs here. As I said, the state financing agency is Cal HFA. They have the Cal Plus program, which is a first mortgage loan insured through mortgage insurance, and it's a 30-year fully amortized term. You can combine it with the Cal Zip program for down payment assistance and closing costs. The second loan is a deferred payment, simple interest rate subordinate loan that provides up to 3% of the sales price or appraised value of the property, whichever is less, and must be recorded in the second position. So Cal HFA has that second program that's going to stay silent until you either refinance out of it and then you'll have to pay it back, or you sell the property and then you'll have to pay it back, with the idea this is to help you get into home ownership, and then you'll be able to build some equity and you can pay it back when you sell the property. So the Cal HFA zero interest program, ZIP, qualifying ratios, 45%, mandatory home warranty insurance, and guess what? You do have to do home buyer education for that. So most housing finance agency programs, you will have to attend home buyer education. There's also the Golden State Financial Authority grant, which provides up to 5% grant in the 5% of the loan amount for eligible home buyers that never has to be repaid. Usually you have to stay in the property 3 to 5 years, and then it gets written off. It's available in all counties throughout California, and you don't have to be a first-time buyer. You can't even own other properties for this grant. Minimum FICO score is 640 and works with conventional and Freddie Mac loans. Then we have the MCC. This is actually a tax credit. It's the Mortgage Credit Certificate Program and entitles the qualified borrower to take a federal income tax credit. Because the MCC reduces your federal income taxes and increases your net earnings, it can help you with qualifying for the initial loan, so you can qualify for a little bit more. And it does provide for federal income tax. It can be taken year after year. And the anticipated tax credit can help first-time homebuyers qualify for the initial mortgage loan. So it's a tax credit, a little bit different, same thing, you would have to apply for it, and it can be taken year after year. So it's really important to be working with a loan officer that knows about all of these different programs so that they can help guide you. There's also, we talked a little bit about the VA loans. This is for active military and veterans. for your primary property. There are some guidelines for it. It's a great loan program. You can use it to buy, build, repair a primary home. Must be veteran or active military. You will need to get your certificate of eligibility. And the great thing about it is that there's no down payment. All right, so we're at the point where we're going to take a little bit of a break. So 15 minutes. So come back in 15 minutes and bring your questions, and we'll get back and talk about shopping for the right lender and loan. Any questions, feel free to send them to me in the chat box, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. All right, thanks. We'll see you in 15 minutes. Okay, we're back now. All right, we're going to be talking about shopping for the right lender and loan. Oops. Okay, hopefully you had a good break. Got a little stretching. All right, so let's talk about shopping for a lender. You're going to want to check with your bank, check with your local state housing finance agency. We usually say shop around, try to get compare and negotiate 3 lenders. You can read mortgage reviews at Zillow.com, check online, check with your local bank, local credit union. Make sure they're licensed. All lenders have to be licensed under the NMLS. You can go to NMLSconsumeraccess.org and look them up, make sure they're licensed. And as I said, try to find somebody who works with first-time buyers so that they know about some of these down payment assistance programs and some of those first-time buyer loan programs. Very helpful if they know about those different programs. So we're going to want to compare important cost information, such as, and this will all be on the loan estimate, rate, buy down points, down payment, is there PMI included, what the fees are, and what the monthly payment is. So this is a sample of the loan estimate. It used to be called the good faith estimate, but now it's called the loan estimate. Includes all the information and the important information on your loan, how much you're financing, the loan amount, the interest rate, what your monthly payments will be, what the estimated taxes and insurance will be, how much your closing cost, how much you need. If you look at the bottom there, it says estimated cash to close. So it will also list all of the fees that you will be paying as well, or estimated fees. This is one of the most important documents that you will have during the home buying process. And as you're working with a lender, you can compare one loan estimate with another loan estimate to see what am I being charged for this loan. You can always send it over to us. We can review it for you and explain any fees that you may not understand. But just know that the loan estimate is one of the most important documents. You want to look this over very carefully. It was redesigned to make it very easy to read for the consumers. What's the rate, what's the term, what's the interest rate, what's the monthly amount, and how much am I being charged for it. We had one client that had sent us over their loan estimate and they were getting charged $5,000 for a termite inspection. Typically termite inspections would be free. So, we were able to point that out. That was one of the lender was trying to pack in a junk fee basically. So had they not sent it over to us and reviewed it, they would have probably just paid that $5,000. So it's best, to work with your housing counselor if you don't understand something. You're going to want to negotiate for the best deal. Ask if the lender will waive or reduce one or more fees or agree to a lower rate or fewer points. As you're comparing, you can say, hey, this one says, 3.2% interest. Can you meet it or beat it? This one's charging $2,000 underwriting fee, and this one's charging $1,000. Can you bring it down to $1,000? So it's important to negotiate for the best deal. Make sure that the lender is not lowering one fee while raising another. And if you are satisfied, ask for a written lock-in to guarantee the rate, period, and number of points to be paid. If you don't lock it in and say something happens, like a war with Russia, and interest rates go up, you will be paying a higher rate. So you want to lock it in once you agree to get a loan with that person. If you do have issues with your credit, ask how your credit history affects the price of the loan and what you need to do to change that. Hopefully you're working with a counselor and you're not going to go meet with them if you have credit issues. If you do find out that you need to do something, you can always get credit counseling to improve your credit score. So what's the loan process? You're going to do your research education, then you'll do your loan application, pre-approval, processing and underwriting, and then you'll do your approval and loan closing. Those are the 5 steps of the loan process. So research and education, you're going to sit down with the housing counselor, review your affordability, your income, your expenses, determine if you're mortgage ready. Next, you'll talk to family, friends, coworkers about their experience, maybe get some referrals of people that they've worked with. Then you'll talk to a mortgage professional without any commitment. As I said, I recommend you talk to 3 of them. You can also go online, do some calculations, and see, you know, what is the cost of a home? What is the calculations? If I make this much amount of money, how much is my mortgage payment? That type of thing. Homeownership OC does provide personalized counseling sessions, and we can provide one-on-one counseling to you and help you get an idea of what you may be able to afford or what your credit is. So feel free to reach out to us after the workshop if you're looking for one-on-one counseling. Next, you'll do your loan application. It's a lengthy document. It has 10 sections, has information about the mortgage, property information, purpose of the loan, borrower information, employment, et cetera, et cetera. You'll complete that loan application. Then you'll go to pre-approval. Pre-approval versus pre-qualification. So pre-approval is a written commitment from a lender for a mortgage funding as long as you meet certain conditions. Your information is verified. A pre-approval does take more time than a pre-qualification because they're verifying your income, your bank statements, all of that information, and does carry more weight than a pre-qualification letter. So pre-qualification is where you can just get an estimate of how much house you can afford and how much money a lender is willing to lend you. Your information is not verified. It's fast and easy. It could take like 15 minutes, and you can even, you know, sit down with the lender and they can tell you how much you may be able to qualify for. So that's the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. When you're going to go out shopping for a home, they're going to, realtor is going to want you to have a pre-approval. How much are you approved for? So we know that we're looking for houses in the, you're pre-approved at $400,000, then we're looking at houses in the $400,000 range. You will need to provide for a pre-approval all your income documentation, pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, any proof of undocumented income. You're going to want to put that in your bank account, show it, as well as a current credit report. And pre-approval carries more weight than the pre-qualification. So when you're just trying to figure out how much you may qualify for, that's the pre-qualification. When you're shopping around for a lender, it's pre-qual. Pre-approval is where you're actually getting information verified. And they will provide you with the loan estimate within 3 days after your application. Next is loan processing and underwriting. The loan processor completes your loan package. They order credit, order an appraisal, verify your employment, rent, bank account balances, etc. Then they send all that information over to the underwriter who reviews your loan application and decides whether or not they approve you. Next, you'll go for loan approval and closing. If you're approved, the lender will send a commitment letter, which formally states the amount and the terms of the loan. On closing day is when your loan is completed, and you'll be getting a closing disclosure. Check that. The closing disclosure looks just like the loan estimate, but I'm going to show you again. Looks just like this, except it says closing disclosure. And everything that's on the loan estimate should be fairly similar to the closing disclosure as well. Okay, so check it for accuracy. If there's things on there that shouldn't be on there, dispute them. Or talk to your loan officer about that. It should be very similar to your loan estimate. You're going to sign documents to agree to pay the lender for the money, which is the mortgage note, and then give the lender rights to your property if you fail to repay the loan, which is the deed of trust here in California. Here's a better copy of the closing disclosure. Again, it's going to list loan amount, rate, principal and interest, monthly payment, estimated taxes and insurance, how much you need to close, etc. All your fees will be listed on there as well. So review that document. The estimate and the closing disclosure are two of the most important documents in the loan process, because it lists everything that you're paying for. Now, if your loan is not approved, make sure to review the underwriter's decision with your mortgage professional. Common reasons for denial can be changes to income. Maybe you regularly get overtime, and over the past few months you weren't getting overtime. If they use that overtime to qualify you, then you may not qualify for the loan. New debt, as I said, if you've gotten, went out and got a new car, now you have another monthly payment, maybe you don't qualify for that mortgage amount. Insufficient assets, or what happens a lot is the value of the property is less than their original agreed purchase offer, which would mean, like, say for instance, you're buying a house for $300,000, but it only appraised at $280,000. So if you only appraises for $280,000, then you're going to have to come up with that $20,000. So what's happening here in California quite a bit and in other areas is that people are overbidding for properties. So maybe they're offering it at $300,000 and they're offering $350,000. Well, if you're going to pay $350,000 for the house, but it only appraises at $300,000, that means you're going to have to come up with that $50,000 over. So if you have that kind of money, laying around, that's great. Or if you're pre-approved for that amount, it wouldn't even matter, because, like I said, they're not going to lend you more than what the property value is. So make sure you're staying within your budget as you're out there looking for properties. And be very aware of predatory lending, which can be abusive lending practices and prices that create unfair terms for the borrower. It can include packing or padding costs and fees, like that $5,000 termite. That would be a packing or padding fees. Deceptive practices and fraud, like, oh, don't worry about it, I'm going to fill that document out later. Never sign a blank document or anything you don't understand. High pressure sales tactics, you have to sign now. Watch out for those red flags, and if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Walk away from it. We had a client who had contacted us who said that, oh, this realtor is really great, I'm working with her, but she wants $5,000 to go show me properties. Nobody should be asking you for money to show you properties. They get paid when the transaction happens. So luckily the client called us because they thought it was a red flag, and we were able to advise them. So if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. All right, as you're working with your realtor, there are a couple different types of agents. We have the listing agent, or the seller's agent, that legally represents the seller, and they're paid from the seller's proceeds, paid by the seller from the proceeds of the sale of the property. Then we have the buyer's agent. That person represents the buyer, usually the homeowner, the person purchasing the home. And they're usually paid by splitting the sales commission with the listing agent, sometimes paid directly by the buyer. And then we have dual agents that represents both the seller and the buyer in the same transaction. May be paid by the seller, the buyer, or both, generally paid from the proceeds of the sale of the property. So if you are going to be working with a dual agent, just know that they're representing the seller and they're representing you, and you want to make sure that they're getting you the best deal. And sometimes that's not possible when you're representing both the seller and agent. So you can certainly walk away from that and get your own agent. Sometimes they will reduce their commission interest amount if they're working as a dual agent, but just know you want them to make sure that they're representing you and getting you the best deal possible. As you're looking for agents, do your research, ask family, friends, look online. You can go to realtor.com, through the local realtor associations, Zillow, Trulia, Here in California, you can check them out with the Department of Real Estate, the DRE or dre.ca.gov. Are they a member of the National Association of Realtors, which has a higher code of ethics? So ask around, get somebody that has a good reputation. And again, somebody who works with first-time buyers is always recommended. You want to interview at least 3, write down your questions, make sure you feel comfortable with them, make sure they're responsive, and that they're really going to be working for you in your best interest. Your agent's role is to discuss your needs and wants, do research for you on potential homes, give you access to the homes, help you prepare the purchase agreement and negotiate for the best price, and refer you to other people like inspectors. They also have to provide disclosure regarding the real estate agency relationship. As a buyer, your responsibility is to get pre-approved, stick within your budget, be ready, respectful, and communicate with your agent. You know, if they're not responding to you in enough time, let them know that, say, all right, I'm going to give you one more shot. But in this kind of market, it really is the seller's market. So buyers have to be super ready and have to have an agent who's really on top of things in order to get the deal done. All right, how do we find the right home? There's several types of homes. There's detached single-family homes, duplex, triplex, fourplex, PUD or a planned unit development, townhouse, condos, and manufactured homes. So a lot will depend on where you're purchasing and the price that you can afford. There's also different types of listings. There's a traditional sale, short sale, or foreclosure or REOs. Right now, majority of it is traditional sales. We're not seeing a whole lot of short sales because we do foreclosure prevention counseling. Most people are able to sell their property through a regular sale because they have equity in the property. We're not seeing a whole lot of foreclosures or REOs or short sales at all. Majority of it is traditional sale. So just know if they are doing a short sale or it is a foreclosure sale, most likely the lender, if it's a short sale, the lender has to approve the sale. It's going to take a little bit longer. Foreclosure is usually going back to the bank or maybe a third party, and then you want to make sure it's all clean of liens and things like that. As you're looking in neighborhoods, you want to consider safety, condition of the other homes, the schools, distance to jobs, parks, playgrounds, public transportation, shopping, other things that may be important to you. So check out the neighborhood where you're looking to purchase and make sure it's going to work for you. Oh, you can also come up with your home buyer's wish list, decide what you want and need in a home, what you're willing to compromise, rate the neighborhood strengths and weaknesses you're considering, and maybe it's based on your job or how far you have to commute. You know, write down the most important factors for you. As you know, right now, because it is a seller's market, you can't be too picky, is what I can tell you. There's, you know, not too many properties, at least here in our area in Southern California. So you may not be getting your dream house, but hey, if it's going to work for you, if the price is right and it's going to work for you, maybe it's your starter home and you can always, you know, work up to your dream home. So be flexible. There's a lot of great tools to check out the neighborhoods and the crime in the area, neighborhoodscout.com, streetadvisor.com, crime mapping, meganslaw.ca.gov, Homebuyer, etc. Do your research on areas to make sure, you know, you're really finding what is going to work for you. So most likely your realtor is going to be searching for homes, but if you just want to get an idea of what houses cost in that particular area, you can go to realtor.com, Trulia.com, Redfin, Zillow, and it will give you, you know, listings, and so you can see how much our property is going for in that particular area. Now, your realtor will be providing you a list of houses that are in your price range that are open and available for open house. You can do drive-bys, do open houses, be respectful. If you do fall in love with the house, don't show you love the house. You know, a lot of them are doing the online tours. You can do a virtual tour. As I said, your agent will be providing you information for open houses. When you're touring the house, make sure you take pictures, bring your spouse, friends, family members, and view it at several times and at different times during the day, so that you can see kind of what the neighborhood's like. Also look for issues, maybe water where it shouldn't be, any kind of structural problems, serious finish problems, building lines that are not straight or true, utility system problems, you know, anything that may be a red flag. So as you've found your house, so now what? So now you're going to work with your agent and you're going to present an offer. The offer is a written purchase proposal signed by you and anyone else that may be a part owner of the property. Before you make an offer, ask yourself, have I been pre-approved for a loan? Like I said, most of the time, realtor's not going to even show you property until they know you're pre-approved and for how much. And they should be asking you where you want to buy so that they can be pulling listings that are in your price range in those areas. How much fixing does the house require? Can I afford this as a new owner? Does this home meet my needs and wants at the fairest possible price? How long has it been on the market? If it's been on the market for quite a long time, maybe there's, you know, red flags or problems with it. We had one first-time buyers who were looking at a property and then got a home inspection and sent it over to us, and it had about 30 things on there. And they were so discouraged because this was like the 10th offer they put in. They were actually considering buying this house, but it had structural problems, plumbing problems, a tree was hitting the roof. It just had all kinds of things wrong with it. And when they sent it over, I said, why on earth would you even consider buying this house? And they said, well, it's our 10th offer. And I said, you know, are you going to be able to fix the roof, the plumbing? I mean, this is major. You're going to need to get a contractor out there to see how much it's going to cost, but it's going to be a lot. So they ended up not going further on that property and were able to find a house that met their needs and that worked for them, that didn't need quite as much fixing. So this is a copy of the purchase contract. So it's going to have the legal name of the buyers spelled, make sure everything is spelled correctly. It's going to have the property address, make sure all of that's correct. But it's also going to list the price you're agreeing to pay for it and the approximate number of days you'll be in escrow after the offer is accepted. Your realtor is going to complete this, but you should need to read this very carefully and make sure that you understand everything that you're signing. By signing it, you agree to all the terms of the contract. All right, so you submit your offer, and then 3 things can happen. Number 1 is your offer is accepted. Great, you're going to escrow. Number 2, the seller sends a counteroffer, then they start negotiating. Or the third option is the offer is rejected, and you decide if you want to submit a new offer if it's allowed by the seller. All right, when negotiating, know your limit. Remember that the offer you settle on is the mortgage you will have to live with. And as I said, if you're going above what you are qualified for, that means you better have cash in the bank. All right, they accepted your offer. Now you go to escrow. Escrow is a licensed company or an impartial third party that holds all the funds and disperses it accordingly to make sure all parties are paid and all contingencies are satisfied. So escrow is opened, and that's the time period between when the offer is accepted and the loan is approved, closed, and the deed is recorded. Usually 30 days, can sometimes be 45 days. So the escrow timeline is within the first 3 days, you'll have to provide what's called earnest money or your good faith deposit. This is money paid as a deposit on the home to show that you're serious about purchasing it. Usually it's between 1% and 3% of the purchase price. If the sale is successful, the earnest money goes towards down payment. Within 7 calendar days, you'll give your pre-approval letter to the seller, verify down payment and closing costs, and then within 7 to 17 calendar days, you'll conduct your inspections, review your reports and disclosures, request repairs, and remove any contingencies or cancel the sale. Now, what are contingencies? Those are events or tasks that must happen before you or the seller can complete the purchase. If the contingencies are not fulfilled before closing, the sale is canceled, you get your earnest money back. So that will be listed on your offer as well. So there could be loan approval, financing contingencies, appraisal, home sale, or title of the property. So make sure you discuss that with your realtor when you're submitting your offer. And for sure, you know, financing, once you want to be, that to be checked, because if you can't get the loan, you can't go forward with the purchase of the property. So there's a difference between a home inspection and a home appraisal. Home inspection evaluates the structural and mechanical soundness of the property for the buyer. The appraisal determines the property's fair market value for the lender. Why are home inspections important? Home inspections are very important because you're having a professional look at the condition of the home. It may change your decision whether to purchase the home, and it could save you hundreds or thousands of dollars on possible problems you didn't see. It also reduces the chance of any costly surprises once you purchase the home. So usually your realtor will recommend a home inspector because they work with them quite often. You can make sure that they're reputable parts of the American Society of the Home Inspectors or National Association of Home Inspectors. It typically costs between $300 to $500, and the buyer does need to pay it up front before, you know. But just consider it a very small investment. We do highly recommend it. HUD recommends that we tell you that it's very important for you to get a home inspection, because then you'll know the condition of the property. If you can, it's a good idea to meet the home inspector at the property so you can ask her questions of the home inspector. They will provide you with a report afterwards, and you can always talk to them afterwards, but it's a good idea to meet them at the property. Some red flags may be any environmental hazards, water contamination, asbestos, lead paint, underground storage tanks, etc. Moisture in the basement or attic, defective roofing or flashing, termite infestation, chimney settling or separation. Those are all big red flags that, of course, your home inspector will find. This is a copy of a flyer that HUD wants us to show you, and make sure that we encourage you to get your home inspections because it is for your own protection. There also will be title report and title insurance. The title report is a legal document from a title company, and it includes a description of the property, and it shows any applicable liens on the property. You should review this with your agent. Title insurance is a policy that insures a lender or a property owner against defects in title or challenges to their interest in the property. All right, so those are some of the costs that you will be paying for escrow, title, etc., taxes. So you're going to do your closing tasks. You're going to do a final walkthrough with your agent to verify the condition of the property. You're going to purchase homeowners insurance. Then you'll review and get a copy of your closing statement. Used to be called a HUD one, now called closing statement. That lists all of those fees that we talked about, all the particulars about the loan. You'll sign your loan documents and provide down payment and closing costs to escrow. Escrow then closes when the loan has been funded, and they notify all parties of the closing and record title, and then you get your keys. And you're a homeowner. All right, so that's the home buying process. Next, we're going to talk about protecting your investment. It is important that you have homeowners insurance or hazard insurance, which is a type of property insurance that covers private homes. It is required by your lender. If you don't purchase it or you let it lapse, they will place it on there for you. And it is very expensive to get a lender's policy, so you're going to want to keep your insurance up. It does protect your asset in event of structural damage and pays to replace personal belongings within the home if they're stolen. Also provides liability coverage in case accidents happen on your property. There's what's covered is fire, structural damage, liability, theft, and temporary living expenses. You can purchase additional coverage for earthquake, expensive soils, if you're in a flood zone, hurricane, landslides, etc. As you're shopping for homeowners insurance, you're going to want to know the difference between replacement cost versus actual. Replacement cost is the amount it would cost to rebuild or repair your home with similar materials. Actual cash market value pays you for your loss, but often doesn't pay you enough to fully repair or replace the damage. You're going to want to shop around, get at least 3 quotes, make sure the company's licensed, and you can also look for discounts. And if you bundle it with your auto insurance and you get your homeowner's insurance together, they usually give you a good discount. All right, so again, there's a home warranty, which is very different than homeowner's insurance. Home warranty is optional and covers plumbing, electrical, heating, and AC systems, major appliances like refrigerators, dishwashers, etc. Usually costs between $250 to $500 a year, depending on the coverage. Plus, you do need to pay a cost for service call, usually between $50 and $100. So when you're making a claim, you call the home warranty company to explain the situation. The company calls a home appliance repair provider who fixes the appliance. All the repair expenses are covered, but the warranty holder has to pay that $50 to $100 service call fee. So that's a home warranty, and it is optional. It is a good idea to have it on the first year when you're owning a property in case something happens. You don't know that much about the property. You know, it's usually a fairly low cost item to have, but it's good to have if something happens with the appliances. Homeowners insurance, as I said, required for the mortgage loan and covers damage to the property in the event of fire, windstorm, theft, etc. Usually costs between $300 and $1,000 per year, depending on many factors. And they only cover the cost of the repairs and do not hire contractors to make the repairs. You'll have to do all that and submit invoices and things like that to the homeowners insurance. All right, fair housing. So we all are protected under federal and state fair housing laws under the Federal Fair Housing Act. We're protected due to our race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, which means the presence of children under the age of 18, as well as disability, which includes physical and mental disabilities. Here in California, California fair housing laws are more expensive and include sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, marital status, medical condition, ancestry, source of income, age, genetic information, and arbitrary discrimination. The Fair Housing Act and other federal fair housing laws collectively prohibit discrimination in nearly all housing transactions, including rental housing, purchasing, selling housing, insuring, appraising, lending, nursing homes, permanent shelters, and other places where people receive services. Housing discrimination is blocking someone's access to housing, treating one buyer or renter differently due to their protected class status, or denying someone the right to buy or rent a home, even though they can't afford a property because they're a member of one of those protected classes that we discussed. So it is illegal under federal fair housing laws to refuse to sell, lend, rent, or lease housing, represent that a dwelling is unavailable for inspection, sale, or rental when it really is available, provide different terms, conditions, privileges, facilities, or services, cancel or terminate a home sale or loan or credit application or rental agreement due to the protected class status, or refuse to provide reasonable accommodations or modifications to a disabled person. It's also illegal to threaten, intimidate, harass, coercion, or make unlawful inquiries. So as you're out, looking for properties, an example of real estate sales discrimination would be lying or exaggerating sales terms, failing to inform buyers of all the listings that are available, stalling to show a home, running a discriminatory ad, refusing to negotiate with prospective buyers, or perhaps steering buyers to certain neighborhoods, such as a realtor tells a family that, you really wouldn't feel comfortable in this neighborhood because it's just for professional adults, which means no kids. So that would be a form of steering, as well as could be familial status discrimination as well. So if something just doesn't sound right, it is your right to investigate it and also possibly make a complaint. Some examples of mortgage discrimination include because a member is a protected class, they're scrutinizing one application more closely than another, giving an unreasonably low appraisal. There was an article in the New York Times about a African-American family that got an appraisal and they thought it was super low. So then they took all their, they decided to get another appraisal and take out all of their pictures and of them in the property and make it kind of just generic, and the appraisal went up. So it ended up being a big, huge investigation, and I believe like the National Fair Housing Alliance did some testing on it. So there was definitely some discrimination in appraising of the property. Imposing different loan terms or conditions, denying loans in certain areas, which is called redlining, or targeting borrowers based on a protected class. For instance, this mortgage company only advertises to Spanish speakers and maybe targeting specifically only Spanish speakers. That could be a form of discrimination as well. All right, so we talked about some of the lending discrimination examples: steering an applicant toward a bad, inferior loan product, unnecessarily requiring a co-signer, providing inferior servicing of a mortgage loan, denying loans to pregnant women going on maternity leave, or requiring them to go back to work in order to qualify for a loan. That was actually, a lot of lenders got sued for that. They were saying, we're not going to lend to you until, how do we know you're going to go back to work when somebody was on maternity leave? So they ended up getting sued for that. So they're going to have to, yes, you do have to prove that, you have enough income to qualify for the loan, but they can't deny you specifically on that for that reason. Approving or denying loans based on protected classes, et cetera, et cetera. So again, if something doesn't feel right and you have questions about fair housing, feel free to outreach to us or your local fair housing agency. We can refer you to your local fair housing agency. Other types of lending discrimination would just be overt discrimination. We don't lend to single women. Disparate treatment when members of a protected class are treated differently than others. Can be unintentional. For example, they may have special pricing or pricing discretion that results in white applicants getting better pricing than Asian applicants or something like that. Redlining again. Or disparate impact when may occur when an otherwise neutral policy or practice has an unintended consequence of creating a disproportionately adverse impact on a protected class, even though it's applied equally to all individuals. Beware of these signs of lenders and discrimination: refusing to provide you information on lending on mortgage loans, steering to high-cost lenders, unnecessary closing costs or recording fees, inflated appraisal costs or broker lender fees, aggressive solicitation to adverse credit terms, unnecessarily requiring co-signers, undervalued properties in appraisal because of the race or national origin of the area, or more advantageous loan products in certain neighborhoods. Again, if something doesn't feel right, it's your right to investigate and talk to a fair housing agency and just find out about your rights. Under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, it's also a federal law that makes credit discrimination illegal and holds lenders responsible if they break the law. It prohibits lenders from discriminating against people, again, based on all of those protected classes while you're in the process of applying for a loan. It does apply to car loans, credit cards, home loans, student loans, business loans, personal loans. From the start when they apply to when the account is closed, you're protected. It also may apply if the person is discouraged from applying for credit. Some examples would be rejecting a credit application based on a consumer's protected class, changing the credit terms or conditions based on a consumer protected class characteristic, asking if a consumer receives alimony, child support, separate maintenance payments, ask if the consumer is widowed or divorced, ask about their spouse or spouse's income, refusing to consider public assistance income the same way they consider other income, or offered credit with a high rate when a higher rate than they applied for, even though they qualify for a lower rate based on advertised requirements. There's also discrimination can happen in foreclosures by refusing to provide the same forbearance terms to all protected classes, providing less favorable loss mitigation terms to certain protected classes, denying forbearance to certain protected classes, or failing to explain available foreclosure prevention policies, or offering harsher collection or foreclosure practices because of the national race or national origin of the borrower or residents in that neighborhood. Disabled buyers and rentals also protected. They have the right to make reasonable modifications and be granted accommodations to get full use and enjoyment of the property. Landlords, property managers, basically everybody in the housing industry may not refuse to deal with you or treat you differently because of your income, includes sources other than wages like disability income. For an example, a disabled veteran was required to provide information verifying her permanency of her Social Security and VA disability benefits for the next 3 years, but this was not required of other individuals who were refinancing. So you can't treat one person differently than the other ones. All right, with COVID and fair housing, it is illegal to deny housing due to being from one of the countries affected by COVID. Illegal to have different rules for persons because they are from a country affected or perceived to be from there. Illegal to refuse to sell, make loan, offer credit, or rent because they are profiled on the basis of race or national origin to be associated with COVID. And COVID individuals can be covered by disability protections if you have COVID, have a disability due to COVID, or are taking care of someone as a result of COVID. All right, here's a couple of examples. You tell me, do you think it's discrimination or not? A non-minority couple applies for a loan to purchase a home. The loan officer provides them with information on the number of eligible loan programs. A minority couple applies for a loan to purchase a home. The loan officer discusses only FHA financing. Is it discrimination? What do you think? Send me a message in the chat box. Yes, no. What do you think? Yes. Yep, you're right. Even if they thought you're the most qualified for FHA, they should show them every single loan product they have, just like they did with everybody else. All right, a home buyer asks a real estate agent what the ethnic makeup of the neighborhood where he is showing them properties, and the realtor refuses to answer the question due to the Fair Housing Act and instead asks the buyer to do their own research before buying. Is this discrimination? What do you think? Send me a message in the chat box. See, some say nope, and you're right. No, that was actually the right answer. You're not supposed to tell them what they have to do their own research, right? If you want to know the ethnic makeup, you do your own research. I'm not going to talk about the ethnic makeup of the neighborhood. So that was the actual case, and the realtor won. Homeowner facing foreclosure calls a mortgage modification company, and here's an ad that he hears an ad for on Spanish radio to save his home. The company promises a modification for a fee, collects the upfront fee before providing services, and encourages him not to make his mortgage payment or call his lender. He never gets the mod, loses his home. And is this discrimination? Could it be discrimination? What do you think? Send me a message in the chat box. Yes. First of all, they're targeting Spanish borrowers because they're only advertising on Spanish radio. And then they're doing all this illegal stuff with, encouraging him not to make his mortgage payment, call his lender. They're charging him an upfront fee. All of these things are illegal. You can go to a HUD agency, get this service done for free. And this was the actual client that we helped that this happened to, unfortunately. Hasn't lost his home yet, though. Hopefully, with the help of us, he won't lose his home. All right, living in your new home. Yes, you're right. Homeowners should have done their homework. They should have researched it. They should have gone to the home buyer class so they learned that there's resources available. All right, safety precautions. You're going to want to post emergency contact numbers, police, fire, etc. Have occasional fire safety inspections. Make sure you keep your smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors up to date. Have a fire extinguisher in your home, your garage. Make an escape plan in case of a disaster, place to meet. Create a preparedness kit, and usually here in California, you do have to install at least one carbon monoxide detector. All right, protecting your property. What is home equity? Equity is the current market of the value of the property minus the amount owed on any outstanding mortgage. So say the current house value is $400,000, but I only owe $300,000. That would give me $100,000 in equity. If you subtract the current house value versus the amount owed, that is the amount of your equity. Equity is an asset that will help you build your financial future. Remember how we talked at the beginning about building your assets and your financial capabilities. So when you borrow money using your equity, it's called a home equity line of credit. And right now we're dealing with a lot of people who had home equity line of credit from 10 years ago, and now they weren't able to pay on it, and they thought it went away, and now they're coming after them because they know they have equity in their property and they're trying to foreclose on the poor home buyers. So it's very important that if you're going to get a home equity loan, that you know what you're getting it for. If you're using it to improve your property, that's great. Don't use it as a cash, ATM machine to buy boats, cars, etc. Because if you don't repay the loan, the lender will collect your home as collateral. And as I said, we have a lot of clients who are currently going through that with second loans that they thought were discharged through bankruptcy or were charged off, and now they're coming after them. All right, Energy Star programs. So Energy Star is energy efficient appliances and sometimes homes. and it's a program that provides certifications to buildings and consumer products that meet certain standards of energy efficiency. A lot of times you can get discounts through the electric company or gas company if you buy energy efficient appliances or an Energy Star home. So check that out. It's a good idea to, you know, sometimes with the thermostats, they can give you a discount for purchasing it, or even give you a free digital thermostat or discounts for purchasing energy efficient or Energy Star products. All right, what comes next? So if you're already approved for a loan, you're gonna make sure you send me your intake form, right? So then I can send you your certificate, and you'll send your certificate over to your lender or your down payment assistance program. If you're ready to get pre-approved, contact the lender, see how much you qualify for. Let them know you attended this class and that you have a certificate so that you're available for any kind of down payment. You want to inquire about down payment assistance programs or closing cost programs they may have. Not sure if you're ready, want to learn more, or you're trying to save up and improve your credit score, it's a good idea to meet with a housing counselor to learn where you're at and determine an action plan to get you where you need to go. Tips for successful homeownership: avoid risky loans. Again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Make sure you make your mortgage payments on time. Stay current on your property taxes and your insurance. As I said, if you don't have insurance, you let it lapse. They will place insurance on your property and will charge you for it, and it's very expensive, more than what you would get if you got it on your own. So make sure you stay current on property taxes and insurance. Usually it's included in your mortgage payment, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Keep the home in good shape. Keep an emergency fund ready in case something happens. You have that emergency fund, 3 months of your payments in the bank. Avoid borrowing against equity in your home for consumer purchases, and get help at the first sign of trouble. You're going to go to a HUD approved housing counseling agency like us if you do have trouble making your payments. Read all the documents, ask questions. Even if you're in the middle of the closing process and you don't understand something, you can always say, hold on, I have to, get an answer to the question. Know that you can get help from us. Know your budget, stick to it. Make sure you're checking out the realtor you're working with, the lender you're working at. They all have to be licensed. So check them out, make sure. You can check us out. We're on the HUD agency. We're legit, make sure the people you're working with are legitimate. Look for down payment assistance in the areas that you're looking for. Check with the city, county, the person, the company that you bank with. Those are good places to start, and try to work with somebody who works with first-time buyers and knows about the down payment assistance programs. Shop around, talk to at least 3 lenders. All right, so at the beginning of the workshop, I did send you the link to complete the intake form. I will need that in order to issue your certificate. So make sure you send that off to me. And once I receive it, I will send you your certificate. We will be sending a follow-up email after the workshop if you would like one-on-one counseling. You can sign up for that after the workshop. All right, what additional questions do you have for me today? Or we were kind of answering them as we go along. So you can always contact us for additional questions that maybe come up later on down the road. Feel free to send us an email. You can go to our website, homeownershipoc.org, or give us a call at 714-204-2314. All right, so I want to thank you guys for attending today. You've been a really great audience. And be sure that you complete that intake form, send it over to me, because that's how I keep track of your certificate. I'll be happy to send you the certificate after I get that intake form. And again, if you have questions that come out during the process, feel free to outreach to us. We'll be happy to answer any type of questions you may have. All right, so thanks very much. We do usually offer this class on a weekly basis. So check back with us. You can check our website and under the events page, and it will show when we have the next workshop available. And you're welcome to attend again if you like, or I will be happy to, if you shoot me an email, I will be happy to send you over the slides. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. You were a great audience today, and I wish you the best of luck in your journey to homeownership. All right, thanks so much. Good night.